I'm back again, Buffs Nation. This video isn't going to take very long, but I thought this was amusing, funny, entertaining, and wanted to get a video out there with my opinion. I had a friend text me this afternoon showing me that FanDuel recently has adjusted their win total line for Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes down to 3.5 wins, which I think is funny. Now, I have been on record throughout this semester in the comments or in other people's videos. I might have even said it in one of my videos before, but I thought, that 4.5 line that a lot of these betting sites have done for total wins, I thought that's pretty fair, given the fact that we're still trying to figure out or see where Coach Prime goes with this roster, how he fills it in, how he builds it, especially with the mass exodus of players, which I think is funny. But now that we've been able to see what Coach Prime is doing, the type of athlete that he's bringing in, I still find this funny that the odds are still down at 3.5, particularly for FanDuel. I think some people, whether it's bettors or people from national media, journalists that are following this team for the first time, as recently as the last few months, they don't realize how bad this team was and how really every player needed to go, maybe outside of a couple, but even with them leaving, it's not the end of the world. There's players to replace them with in the portal, and I think we've done a solid job at that. But you're going to be able to count the guys from this team last year that transferred out that go Power 5 on one hand. That's just the reality of it. This team won one game, and it barely beat Cal at home. Barely. This was no doubt the worst roster from a talent perspective in Power 5 college football last year. I don't know how you can look at that team then and compare it with the team now and think that there won't be substantial improvement. Now, again, as I've said, we're playing with house money. Regardless of what happens this year, it's going to be an improvement this year and an up year for the Buffs. But I look at that 3.5 line, and then I look and I see, oh, shoot, yes, we play 5 teams that won double-digit games last year. But we also play 4 teams that had 3 wins last year, and that is being Nebraska, Stanford, Arizona State, and Colorado State. You're telling me that even if you're just looking at those 4 matchups, that CU can't win 3 of them and then another game at some point on the schedule? I think that's a little ridiculous. I think some of the media and the bettors are looking at this whole rebuild like Coach Prime was taking over a team that went 5-7 last year or 4-8, that had maybe some foundations laid. That is not true at all. And if you compare the type of athlete, the level of athleticism that Coach Prime is bringing in compared to what was on the team last year, it is night and day. The level of athleticism is significantly improved. And okay, you can argue that some of these guys that have transferred in, they haven't played a lot at the Power 5 level. But even somebody such as Bishop Thomas, that okay, as a true freshman, wasn't able to get on the field for a very impressive veteran-led Florida State defense last year that won 10 games, that doesn't mean that he's not a substantial improvement over what we had last year. And I think that if you can't just look at the box scores of these players to know what you're getting or to know what the team is getting. Go ahead and look at their film. Go ahead and look at how they move on the field, on the tape, and then go back and look at this team last year and look at their athleticism and how they move. Measure the tenacity and the desire that you see from these athletes coming in now compared to these guys that have been on the team the last couple of years. It is night and day. And don't play me with that you watched Colorado football last year if you're not a CU fan, but before Prime. You had no reason to watch the mess that happened on the field every week last year. You had no reason to. And a lot of these journalists, they should have been covering competitive college football. So we know they didn't. But I just think this is so funny. Just like I have said And my opinion and perspective on this isn't going to change as we enter the fall. An A-plus year from Coach Prime is a bowl game and a bowl win, winning our first game since YouTube ever existed. And if there's anything beyond that, I mean, that is just gravy. We're playing with house money. We're going to enjoy this. But again, I can still kind of understand that 4.5 line. Like, okay, say we only beat the teams that went 3 and whatever last year, the 4 teams. I get it. But you have to also understand, we also play schools such as Arizona and Washington State. And while they had slightly better records, they both had losing records within the Pac-12 last year. This is a team, I think Colorado, you're going to find that their baseline is going to be in the middle of this conference, and we're going to see how high they can raise after that. It's going to be incredibly fun to watch, but I think that 3.5 line is a little low. Now, I'm not a bettor. I get in too much trouble when I bet money, so I don't do it. But I'm excited to see how this plays out, and I'm super curious about what you all think about FanDuel changing their odds, driving the win total line down to 3.5. So thanks for tuning in, Buffs fans. I appreciate it. Hit that like and Sco Buffs.